some pickled red onions today that are great for a condiment for any kind of like sandwich or hamburger or on top of your salads over the summertime, and they last for weeks in the refrigerator. But before we do that, I want to give you a little bit of a produce tip. If you're just meeting me, my name is Amy Cross, and this is the Cross Legacy, where I teach you how to save money on groceries, and one of those ways is by reducing your produce waste. And as I was grabbing these onions out of the pantry, it made me think of a little tip I had to share. So I have two that both have their skins on. They're the same age. They're over 2.5 weeks, 3 weeks old right now at this point. Whenever I go to grab an onion out of the pantry, out of the basket that I store them in, I'm always listening for them when I'm picking them up. And this one, you can hear, even though it's a loose piece of skin there, you can hear it's a little bit more crinkly sounding, and that means it's dehydrating a little bit more. So this onion needs to be used first. And another tip for your onions is to make sure that you store onions and potatoes at least 3 feet away from each other. They will make each other spoil quicker. So onions will normally last for months, harvest season to harvest season, and potatoes will normally last from harvest season to the spring when they want to be planted into the ground again. And so that's when you'll normally see them eyeing, but try to keep them 3 feet away. And I keep them in a wire basket so they have plenty of airflow. And when you're storing them, you can also keep onions and garlic together in the same basket if you choose to. So all of my tips, A to Z, for over 75 produce items is in my Zero Waste Produce Guide, and there's a special discount code in the description, so make sure that you're checking that out. I just used a knife and cut these onions pretty thinly. Honestly, one time I was using a mandolin and I cut my hand and had to go to the ER, and now I've been kind of scared to use it. So you can get a cutting glove, and that would be a great thing to use if you're using a mandolin. But anyways, a knife works really well, and I'm just going to fill up this jar here. So I'm just going to pack the onions down in here kind of tightly as possible. It will only fill up about 3/4 of the way of the jar. For the brine, I'm going to add into this bowl some hot water. It doesn't have to be boiling hot. I just made it in my kettle because it was easy. And then also some apple cider vinegar. So it will be equal parts of the water and apple cider vinegar. I'm going to use a 1/2 cup each. And then you want just a tiny bit of sweetness in it, which also helps preserve it a little bit more too. But I'm going to add a tablespoon of honey, or you can use some pure maple syrup also. And the last step of this is to add the spices that you want. So I am going to add about a tablespoon of black peppercorn, and then any other spices that you want. So I think I'm going to use some star anise today and some cloves, like really whatever you have on hand that you think might taste you with this, and make sure that they're whole cloves, because then they will release all of the aromas into the spiced pickles. Now all you have to do is pour the brine over the onions. Now you can put this in a smaller jar so there's not as much air at the top of it, and it'll keep everything down below the water level. But I'm going to use my glass fermentation weight right now that I just pulled out of my sauerkraut, honestly. And I'm going to put that down there, and it's going to push the onions below the water line. So there might be still a couple that are floating up, which is fine. These are going to pickle over the next couple days. I would wait until at least tomorrow to eat them, but over the next couple days, they will get even more tasty, and these will actually last for months in your refrigerator. So these are going to last for many months, but make sure that you store them in your refrigerator to keep them cold the entire time. These are the ones that I made a couple weeks ago. You can see how the water ends up churning a pretty purple color. And then this one, I actually put allspice in it. So you can use up any spices that you have in your cabinets, and it's a great way to experiment to see what your family will like. But I love putting these on salads and hamburgers, especially during the summertime. And since I did mention sauerkraut, if that's something that you're interested in learning how to make more fermented items, I have a video on sauerkraut and my favorite, which is fermented salsa.